also picked up from Canada a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, and we're gonna taste test them to see if I can tell the difference. Welcome to the Left Coast. Tonight I've got a bit of a taste test. Now, Dr. Pepper, and specifically Diet Dr. Pepper, is probably my favorite soda. When it comes to just plain, like regular everyday sodas, Diet Dr. Pepper is my go-to. So I noticed about a year, maybe 18 months ago, they started bringing out Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, and eventually Diet Dr. Pepper slowly disappeared off the shelves, and it's been about a year since you've been able to get Diet Dr. Pepper in Canada. So last week, when I was down in the States, I picked up a bottle of Diet Dr. Pepper, and then I also picked up from Canada a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, and we're gonna taste test them to see if I can tell the difference. I thought about doing a blind taste test, but there's not really any way for me to blind myself to know which one's which or mix them up, so I thought I'm just gonna not do it blind. So, yeah, Zero Sugar and Diet. Now, my understanding of the Zero Sugar, just like the Pepsi Max, I think it's called, and Coke Zero, and a lot of the other zero sugar versions, is that they use aspartame, like Diet Coke and like Diet Dr. Pepper, but they also use other artificial sweeteners, not just aspartame, to make them taste more like the original thing. But Dr. Pepper and Diet Dr. Pepper, I've always understood that the reason why Diet Dr. Pepper and regular Dr. Pepper taste the same is because what makes Dr. Pepper taste like Dr. Pepper is not the sugar. So you can replace the sugar with something else and it'll still taste the same. Whereas Coca-Cola, a lot of the flavor is based on the sugar. So when you replace the sugar with something else, it tastes like a completely different drink, which you can obviously notice that Coca-Cola and Diet Coke don't taste like the same thing. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling. I will quickly just read off the Wikipedia. Dr. Pepper is a carbonated soft drink. Dr. Pepper is created in the 1880s by the American pharmacist Charles Alderton in Waco, Texas, and was the first nationally marketed in the United States in 1904. It is manufactured by Keurig Dr. Pepper in the United States and Canada, by the Coca-Cola Company in the United Kingdom, Japan, South Korea, and by PepsiCo in Europe. So, in Canada, and let me see if it says on here, I don't know about other parts of Canada, but on the left coast, I assume in all parts of Canada, Dr. Pepper is bottled, or is distributed, I should say, by Pepsi. It's not going to say. It just has the caffeine content. It says Canada Dry Mott's Inc. So it's the same company as Canada Dry, which is ginger ale in Canada. So, but my understanding is that it's distributed by Pepsi. Whereas in the States, it's distributed by Coca-Cola. So when you go to restaurants, a lot of times in the States, you'll find Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola in the same restaurant. Whereas in Canada, you'll never find that. The only place you might get Dr. Pepper, but it's rare, is if the restaurant already has Pepsi. So, anyway, I'm very thirsty. I feel like my mouth is really dry. So I should open these up and quench my thirst. Let's start with the OG. Try not to make this too loud. Move this out of the way. Okay, there we go. Let's try it. That tastes like Dr. Pepper, like I remember. So its ingredients: carbonated water, caramel color, aspartame, phosphoric acid, natural and artificial flavors, sodium benzoate, which is a preservative, and caffeine. Here it says, produced under the authority of Dr. Pepper 7-Up, Inc. So I have noticed, I haven't been down to the States a lot, but they do also have the zero sugar version. And I wonder if the Diet Dr. Pepper there is gonna eventually go away too. I had heard that all the pop companies or soda companies were switching to zero sugar versions because they're trying to get away from the diet, the name diet, or the branding. Okay, the ingredients here: carbonated water, caramel color, phosphoric acid, aspartame, sodium benzoate, caffeine, which are all, I believe, the same. But then it also has acesulfame, potassium, natural and artificial flavor, sodium phosphate. So it's basically all the same ingredients. Let me see. Water, yep. Caramel, yep. Aspartame. So this one has more phosphoric aspartame. They're just switched. Phosphoric acid and aspartame are switched, which is interesting. Because I've always understood the ingredient lists on things, whatever they're listed in the order of how much, like the most amount is in each thing will be the first on the list. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's open this one now. Smells the same. Tastes the same. It's interesting. They do taste slightly different. Excuse me, it's gonna be a lot of burping. I feel like the flavor in the zero sugar is a little bit more subdued. Not a lot, just a tiny bit. actually, I always called it DDP for Diet Dr. Pepper. Just rolls off the tongue a lot better than Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Okay, I'm gonna put these aside for a second. Maybe right like that. I also have, if you know of John Green's work, he wrote The Fault in Our Stars and a few other books. He also wrote The Anthropocene Reviewed, which I would recommend. It's a great book. He takes different topics, a wide variety of topics, and like one chapter, one story, or whatever for each topic. And then he rates them on a 5-star scale. Excuse me. So one of his chapters is on Diet Dr. Pepper. Excuse me, sorry. So what happens when I drink pop? I'm not going to read it because copyright. But if you get a chance, this is a great book. It's a great coffee table book. It's great to be able to read in chunks because you can just read one story at a time. You can skip around. You can, all kinds of things. There's also a podcast, and where he basically reads or tells the stories that are in the book. And there is one, the Diet Dr. Pepper one is in there, which you can find. Oh, look at that. Not even trying. There's the Diet Dr. Pepper page. Anyway, there's lots of different stories. He goes through the whole history of Diet Dr. Pepper. It's very interesting. But like I said, I'm not going to read it because of copyright. But it's a cool story. There's a museum. There's a Dr. Pepper museum you can visit. And, yeah. Anyway, the chapter after is on velociraptors. As like is in the dinosaur. Or is it? You'll have to read and find out. And then the chapter before is about scratch and sniff stickers. So as you can tell, it's just a wide variety of. There's one about Halley's Comet. Let's see. There's a whole wide variety of topics. They're not all in podcast form. Only some are. There's one about a hot dog. Let's see. One about the plague. Viral meningitis. Mario Kart. Monopoly. The Indianapolis 500. Googling strangers. Anyway, there's a whole wide variety of topics, and the stories range from a couple of pages to half a dozen pages that you can sort of just read. Anyway, but if you're interested at all in the history of Dr. Pepper, I suggest you at least listen to the podcast. If not, pick up the book. I know even recently I saw a post on Reddit about Dr. Pepper and about how if you mix, I think it's Coca-Cola and root beer, it tastes just like Dr. Pepper. And that's all that it is. Which I don't agree at all. I think it's maybe a coincidence that Dr. Pepper tastes like Coke and root beer mixed together. But it's its own. It's definitely its own thing. There we go. Laces out right. If you get that joke, you're my people. So, according to legend, or at least the legend that I had heard when I was in high school in the 1900s, was that Dr. Pepper was just carbonated prune juice, which is not true. And even on the Wikipedia, it talks about how there's been a rumor since the 1930s was that there was prune juice in Dr. Pepper. But that's definitely not true. I'm just reading through again the Wikipedia. In 2009, an old ledger book filled with formulas and recipes was discovered by Bill Waters while shopping at antique stores. In the Texas Panhandle, several sheets and letterheads hinted it had come from W.B. Morrison & Co., old corner drugstore, the same one where Dr. Pepper was first served in 1885. Was faded with faded colors, and the book's cover spelled out Castle's formulas. John Castle was a partner of Morrison's for a time and worked at that location as early as 1880. One recipe in the book, titled Dr. Pepper's Pepsin Bitters, was of particular interest, and some speculated it could be an early recipe for Dr. Pepper. However, Keurig Dr. Pepper insists it is not the formula for Dr. Pepper, but it is instead a medicinal recipe for digestive aid. The book was put up for auction in May 2009, but no one purchased it. So, yeah, it also says the origin of the prune juice rumor is unknown. Some believe it was started by a delivery man for a competitor trying to cast aspersions based on prune juice's laxative effects. So, yeah, it's not prune juice. Yeah. I'm trying to find what the flavor. It's supposed to be 23 flavors, all in one. Anyway, sorry the cats. I had to let the cat in. She's being a bit of a pain. Anyway. Dr. Pepper is the second highest selling carbonated soft drink in the United States and the sixth highest in the United Kingdom. I'm not sure about Canada, but that's okay. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I've got for tonight. It's just a quick video. I thought I would share my love for Dr. Pepper. I'm probably going to finish the Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm going to put the lid back on and for the other one, and I'll finish it tomorrow because I can't drink all of this tonight. Well, I could, but I shouldn't. Oh, it's good stuff. I'm gonna have to buy a bunch of this when I'm in the States the next time. The other problem with Dr. Pepper in Canada, the zero sugar, is the distribution is just lacking. There's only usually ever one slot at the gas station or one of the spots in the cooler for Dr. Pepper zero sugar version, and it's almost always sold out. I don't understand. I think this is just my own observation, is that because it's distributed by Pepsi, and they would rather sell Diet Pepsi than Diet Dr. Pepper. There's always multiple rows or multiple slots of their Diet Pepsi and Pepsi Max versions, but there's only ever one spot for Dr. Pepper. So you can read into that what you want. But anyway, that's just my thought. And speaking with the gas station attendants, like, they always say, "Oh yeah, we always sell out of that." Well, if you always sell out, then why don't they stock more? They are very close. This one is just slightly, I want to say it's not more carb carbonated. This one just is a slightly more flavorful, if that makes sense. It could just be their dates, their production dates. They both expire in March. They're both their best befores are within 7 days of each other. So that shouldn't be the issue. Oh, which lid's for which now? Oh, the black one goes. There we go. Put the lid back on that one so I don't drink anymore. That one's going back in the fridge for lunch tomorrow. I'm gonna finish this one while I edit. So, like I said, Diet Dr. Pepper is where it's at. Also, the Anthropocene Reviewed. It's not an ad. They're not paying me to say that. I just really enjoy this book. And I really enjoy John Green's work. So, yeah. As the whispers fade, let relaxation take over. And until next time, have a good night.